One of my favorite memories from being pregnant was the hiccups. Not mine, the baby's. Little, steady hiccups that usually occurred at the exact moment I was comfortable enough to finally fall asleep. At the time, I remember thinking, really? This is what we're doing tonight? However, looking back, those hiccups make me smile because I realized they were reminding me of something I completely overlooked at the time. The rhythmic development had already begun. If this sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned. Hi, I'm Becky from Music is Academic, and I work with teachers, schools, families, and organizations to turn brain science into practical tools that support learning, attention, and regulation. Over the last few videos, we've talked about things like attention transitions, why kids can't sit still, and why repeating ourselves usually doesn't work nearly as well as we'd like. Well, today I want to rewind the story a little bit back, way back, before the first day of preschool, before the first birthday, and before birth itself. One of the things that always amused me during my pregnancies, and I had 6 of them, so I had a lot of amusement, was how naturally people talked to the baby. Complete strangers would smile at my tummy. "Hello, little one," they'd say. Grandparents would sing. Friends would tell the baby they couldn't wait to meet him or her. At the time, I just thought everyone was being sweet. What those moments, though, really acknowledged, even if nobody realized it, was that rhythmic development was already happening. When most people picture a baby before birth, they think about tiny fingers, tiny toes, those little kicks in the ribs in the middle of the night. But now I think about rhythm, because before we're ever born, we are surrounded by it. We're surrounded by a heartbeat, by breathing, by walking, by the rhythm of mom's speech and sleep patterns, by the busy days, the quiet days, and just the gentle sway of everyday life. Think about that for a minute. Before a baby ever sees a face, or before they ever hear someone clearly say their name, or before they ever take that first breath, their nervous system is already growing rhythmic patterns. It isn't growing in silence, and it isn't growing in randomness. It's growing inside timing. I'm not saying that babies are learning algebra before they're born. They're not memorizing the alphabet. That's not the point. The point is much simpler. The brain and the nervous system develops in the presence of predictable rhythms. It develops while life is happening around it in rhythm. Researchers have already discovered that babies can recognize music they have heard before birth. In one study, mothers repeatedly sang the same simple melody during their pregnancies. After the babies were born, and up to 12 months later, the babies responded more strongly to that familiar melody than babies that had not heard it before. I love that study. Not because I think every expected parent needs to start giving nightly concerts, but because it reminds us that the developing brain is already paying attention to rhythmic, patterned experiences long before birth. Then one day, everything changes. Imagine spending months in one environment. Every sound is soft and gentle. Every movement is familiar. Every day has a predictable flow. And then there's light. There's air, there's voices, there's faces, there's gravity. That's quite an entrance. But something interesting comes with us into this brand new world. The rhythm doesn't disappear. It simply changes clothes. Instead of hearing a heartbeat from inside the womb, babies are rocked. Babies are swayed, they're carried, they're bounced, they're sung to. Across cultures, adults have been doing these things for thousands and thousands of years, long before neuroscience and long before brain scans. People simply knew these rhythms helped babies settle for whatever reason they thought at the time. Maybe that's one reason the heartbeat sounds are still so popular in baby products and toys today, blankets and stuffed animals, because they reconnect newborns with one of the very first rhythmic experiences they've ever known. Then their parents tell me, a music teacher, how their infant suddenly responds to music, like this is something their baby is doing for the very first time. Little do they know. I have come to realize that the story is starting in the wrong place. Most parents and teachers think about learning beginning sometime after birth. Maybe it's watching Sesame Street when they're a 1 year old, or maybe it's in preschool, or maybe it's when they get to kindergarten. But that is much, much too late. The very first environment every one of us experiences is already organized by rhythm. And you and if you start looking through that lens, you begin seeing rhythm everywhere, not just in music or dance, but in attention, regulation, movement, and in learning. For years, I've been thinking, what does music do for learning? But what I should have been thinking is, what has rhythm been doing all along? That question eventually becomes one of the foundations of what I now call the developmental rhythmic framework. And it's one of the organizing principles that helps support human development from before birth throughout the lifespan. Did anything in today's video surprise you? Or did it change the way you think about a baby's world before birth? Please let me know in the comments. And before you go, let me leave you with one more thought. For years and years, we've heard about the Mozart effect. Then, just as quickly, we were told it wasn't real, it was made up, don't believe it. But I'm asking, what if the researchers weren't entirely wrong? What if they were simply looking through the wrong lens? If the developing brain is organized by predictable temporal patterns before birth, maybe the real story is never about Mozart at all. Next week, we're taking a fresh look at the Mozart effect through the lens of developmental rhythm. And I think you'll hear that famous study very differently. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join me next week as we continue to exploring rhythm, learning, and how the brain really works. Take care, stay safe, keep learning, and I'll see you next week.